The Belgian Malinois moved like death itself, 85 pounds of muscle and fury, black coat, bristling scar tissue cutting across its muzzle like a lightning strike frozen in flesh. The dog's eyes held no recognition, no mercy, only the raw primal hunger of a predator that hadn't eaten in 48 hours. Kira Blackwood stood her ground, 5'3", 26 years old, dark brown hair pulled tight in a regulation bun, eyes the color of storm clouds over the Pacific. She didn't run, didn't scream, didn't give the men watching from outside the kennel the satisfaction of seeing fear. The dog named Apex launched forward, closing the distance between them in 3 powerful strides. Its jaws opened wide, revealing teeth designed by evolution to rip and tear. The scent of starvation and rage filled the enclosed space. Outside the chain-link fence, 8 Navy SEALs watched with cold anticipation. One of them, a younger operator named Trent Aldridge, held his phone up recording, his voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Die now, bitch!" The words echoed off concrete walls. Laughter followed, harsh, masculine. The sound of men who believed they were about to witness someone break. But that was 24 hours ago. Let me take you back to where this really began. The morning sun hadn't yet burned through the coastal fog when Kira Blackwood arrived at the main gate. She carried everything she owned in a single Alice pack, the same model her father had carried 30 years earlier. The weight pressed familiar against her shoulders. 60 pounds of gear, clothing, and one item that mattered more than all the rest combined: her father's journal. The guard at the gate studied her identification with the same expression every guard had given her for the past 4 years. Skepticism mixed with something else. Curiosity, maybe? Or pity. "Canine Handler Specialist," he read aloud from her orders. "Petty Officer 2nd Class Kira Blackwood." She said nothing, just waited. He handed back her credentials. "Building 7, kennels are out back. Senior Chief Maddox is expecting you." The gate lifted. Kira walked through, and with each step forward, she walked deeper into a past that had never really let her go. 12 years, that's how long her father had been dead. Master Chief Garrett Blackwood, SEAL Team 3, the best canine handler naval special warfare had ever produced. The man who could walk into a pack of trained war dogs and have them following him like puppies within minutes. The man who taught Kira everything she knew about reading animals, understanding their language, becoming part of their world. The man who died in Kandahar, Afghanistan in 2011 when an IED tore his vehicle apart and scattered his remains across a dusty road 10,000 miles from home. At least that's what the official report said. Kira knew better. The kennels sat at the eastern edge of the training compound, downwind from everything else. Smart placement. Dogs made noise, and war dogs made more noise than most. She could hear them now as she approached, barking, howling, the sound of animals bred and trained for violence, waiting for their next mission. The facility itself looked exactly like every other military building she'd ever seen. Cinder block construction, flat roof, industrial lighting, functional to the point of being hostile. The only concession to aesthetics was a faded mural near the entrance, a German shepherd in tactical gear, painted in desert camouflage colors. The door wasn't locked. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The smell hit her first. Not unpleasant, just intense. Dog concrete disinfectant, and underneath it all, the distinct scent of controlled aggression. 12 kennels lined the main corridor, 6 on each side. Most were occupied. She could see the dogs, now Belgian Malinois, primarily with a few German shepherds mixed in. All of them alert. All of them watching her with the kind of focus that most humans couldn't maintain for more than a few seconds. Kira felt something inside her chest unclench for the first time in weeks. She was home. "Well, well, fresh meat," the voice came from her left. Kira turned and found herself looking at a man who seemed designed to intimidate. 6'2", maybe 240 pounds. Most of it muscle gone slightly soft around the edges. Buzz-cut hair going gray at the temples. A face that looked like it had been carved from granite and then used as a punching bag for target practice. Senior Chief Boone Maddox. The file she'd read had his photograph, but photos never captured the full presence of a man like this. He stood with his weight forward, shoulders squared, taking up more space than strictly necessary. Alpha posture. The body language of someone who expected submission and usually got it. "Sir," Kira said, keeping her voice neutral, Petty Officer Second Class Blackwood, reporting as ordered. Maddox looked her up and down with the kind of appraisal usually reserved for livestock. His expression suggested he found her wanting. Blackwood, he repeated, rolling the name around like he was testing it for weaknesses. Any relation to Garrett Blackwood? Her heart rate kicked up, but her face showed nothing. Yes, sir. He was my father. Something flickered across Maddox's features, too quick to identify. Surprise recognition. Guilt. It vanished before she could be certain. Garrett Blackwood's daughter. Maddox's tone had shifted, though she couldn't quite pinpoint how. Flatter maybe, more carefully controlled. Didn't know he had a kid in the Navy. Yes, sir. He's dead. I know, sir. Been dead a long time. 12 years, sir. Maddox stared at her for a long moment. The silence stretched between them like a tripwire waiting for someone to stumble. Finally, he turned and started walking down the corridor between the kennels. Come on, then. I'll show you around. Kira followed, watching the dogs as she passed. They watched back. Some whined softly, others growled. One, a massive Malinois with a coat so dark it looked black, tracked her movement with absolute stillness. That one had a scar across its muzzle and eyes that had seen things. Combat eyes. That's Apex, Maddox said, noticing her attention. Meanest son of a bitch we've got. Sent 3 handlers to medical in the last year. Damn dog's more trouble than he's worth, but he's got the best nose in the program. Kira stopped in front of Apex's kennel. The dog didn't move, didn't react. Just stared at her with those cold, calculating eyes. She'd seen that look before, in her father's dogs. In the working animals who'd been pushed too hard, punished too often, treated like tools instead of partners. What's his training regimen, she asked. Standard protocols, discipline through consequences. You give him a command, he obeys, or he gets corrected. Corrected how? Maddox's jaw tightened. That's above your pay grade, petty officer. You're here to learn, not question. Kira turned away from the kennel, meeting Maddox's stare directly. My father taught me that dogs aren't machines, sir. They're teammates. You can't beat loyalty into them. Your father's methods died with him in Kandahar, Maddox said, and there was an edge to his voice now sharp and dangerous. We do things my way here. You got a problem with that, there's the door. Before Kira could respond, a voice interrupted from the entrance. Boone, you bullying the new handler already? She hasn't even unpacked yet. The man who walked in moved with the careful precision of someone whose body remembered how to be dangerous, but whose age had started sending reminders about limits. 67, maybe 68 years old. Silver hair cut military short. Weathered face mapped with the kind of scars you earned over decades of service. He walked with a barely perceptible, limp right leg, probably shrapnel, but his shoulders stayed square and his eyes stayed sharp. Master Chief Thaddeus Brennan. Kira recognized him instantly from photographs. Her father's best friend. His platoon leader during their deployment to Panama in 1989. The man who'd been at Garrett Blackwood's side through Grenada, through Desert Storm, through a dozen operations that would never appear in official records. The man who, according to her research, had retired from active duty 5 years ago, but couldn't quite leave the teams behind. Now he worked as a civilian contractor, training K-9 units, passing on knowledge earned through blood and time. Thaddeus Brennan looked at Kira, and she watched his expression shift through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something that looked almost like pain. Jesus Christ, he said softly. Garrett's little girl. The kennel fell silent. Even the tennis seemed to sense the change in atmosphere. Maddox glanced between them. You know her. Know her. Thaddeus moved closer, his limp more pronounced now, like the shock had made him forget to compensate. I held this kid when she was 10 years old, crying at her father's memorial service. I promised Garrett I'd look after her if anything happened to him. He stopped a few feet away, studying Kira's face with an intensity that made her want to look away. She didn't. You have his eyes, Thaddeus said. Same storm gray color. Same expression, like you're always analyzing, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Sir, Kira managed her voice rougher than she intended. Master Chief Brennan, it's good to see you again. Thaddeus, just Thaddeus now, I'm not active duty anymore. He paused. Does your mother know you're here? My mother passed away 6 years ago. Cancer. Something in his face broke just a little. I didn't know, I'm sorry. It was quick, she didn't suffer much. The lie came easily. Her mother had suffered tremendously, wasting away over 18 months while Kira watched helplessly. But some truths were too heavy to share with strangers, even strangers who'd once been family. Maddox cleared his throat. Touching reunion and all, but we've got work to do. Blackwood, you're assigned to Kennel 3. Gear Locker is... She needs to get settled first. Thaddeus interrupted. Boone, I'll handle the orientation. You've got that briefing with Commander Gallagher at 0900. Maddox's expression suggested he wanted to argue, but something in Thaddeus's tone, the quiet authority of a man who'd earned respect through decades of service, made him reconsider. Fine, but Blackwood, you're on shift at 1400 hours. Don't be late. He turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing off concrete until the door slammed shut behind him. Thaddeus waited until the sound faded completely before speaking. Walk with me. They left the kennel building and headed toward the eastern perimeter of the compound, where the manicured grounds gave way to scrub brush and sand. The Pacific Ocean gleamed in the distance, gray-blue under morning clouds. Seagulls circled overhead, their cries mixing with the distant sound of surf. Thaddeus didn't speak for almost 5 minutes. Just walked, hands clasped behind his back, that slight limp marking every third step. Finally, when they were far enough from any buildings that conversation couldn't be overheard, he stopped. Why are you really here, Kira? She'd prepared for this question. Had practiced the answer in mirrors, refined it until it sounded natural. But standing in front of this man, this connection to her father, the rehearsed words felt hollow. I'm a K-9 handler specialist, sir. I requested transfer to bullshit. The word came out flat and certain. You could have gone anywhere. Lackland Air Force Base has the best training program in the country. Fort Benning, Quantico, hell, even private security contractors pay twice what the Navy offers. But you specifically requested SEAL Team K-9 operations at Coronado. He turned to face her fully. The same unit your father served with. The same unit where he died. So I'll ask again, why are you really here? Kira looked out at the ocean, watched waves break against the shore in endless, repetitive violence. When she spoke, she chose her words carefully. Do you believe my father died the way the report said, i.e. the explosion? Taliban ambush, killed in action. Thaddeus went very still. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking what you believe. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush bone. Thaddeus studied her with an expression she couldn't quite read, concern mixed with something darker. Fear, maybe. Your father was the best approacher I ever knew, he said finally. Best handler, best tactical mind, best friend a man could ask for. And yes, I've had questions about how he died. Questions I couldn't answer. Why not us? Because I'm just one old man with suspicions and no proof. Because the official investigation was sealed. Because anyone I tried to talk to about it either got transferred or told me to let it go. He paused. Because I wasn't brave enough to push harder. Kira reached into her jacket and pulled out a small notebook. Worn leather cover pages, yellowed with age. Her father's handwriting filled every available space, cramped, efficient letters that packed maximum information into minimum space. Dad kept a journal. Mom found it in his personal effects, gave it to me before she died. Most of it's encrypted, but I've been working on decoding it for 6 years. She opened to a marked page and handed it to Thaddeus. Read the entry from October 10th, 2011, 5 days before he died. Thaddeus took the journal with the care usually reserved for religious texts. His eyes moved across the page, and Kira watched his expression shift from curiosity to shock to something that looked like barely controlled rage. Jesus Christ, he whispered. The entry was short, written in the abbreviated code her father had developed, part military shorthand, part personal cipher. But Kira had broken it word by painful word. October 10, 2011, Kandahar FOB, confirmed 5 Vipers in the nest. BM is 1, possibly RV. At top, smuggling operation confirmed, not drugs. Weapons grade, destination unknown but payment traced to offshore accounts. They know I know. Going to brief TB tomorrow if I survive tonight's patrol. If something happens, trust the dogs. They know who the wolves are. Tell Kira I love her. Thaddeus looked up from the journal, his face pale. BM Boone Maddox. That's my conclusion. In RV, I think that's Captain Richard Vance, Commander of Special Operations Integration. Vance has been at NavSpec Warcom for 15 years. He's untouchable, decorated veteran Grenada Panama Desert Storm. He's got political connections all the way to, I don't care who he knows, Kira interrupted. I care that my father discovered something worth killing him over. And I care that the men responsible have been walking free for 12 years. Thaddeus handed back the journal. This is dangerous. If you're right, if Garrett was murdered by fellow SEALs, then those same men are still here, still operating, still protected by the system. I know. They'll kill you too if they realize what you're doing. I know that too. He studied her for a long moment. Then slowly something in his expression shifted. The fear remained, but underneath it she saw something else. Recognition, respect. The look of someone seeing a ghost and realizing it's come back to finish unfinished business. You're really going through with this? Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. If we're doing this, and God help me, I think we do it as partners, as family. He extended his hand. Garrett saved my life in Kandahar, 2009. I owe him everything. I should have pushed harder when he died. Should have demanded answers. Should have protected his legacy. Kira took his hand. His grip was firm, calloused, the handshake of someone who'd spent a lifetime doing things that required hard work and harder choices. Help me now, she said. Help me finish what he started. What do you need? Time, access, information about who was on his final deployment, who had opportunity, who benefited from his death. I can get you that, but Kira, he hesitated. If Boone Maddox is involved, he's dangerous. He's smart, well-connected, and he's got a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. You can't let him know you suspect him. I wasn't planning to. And there's something else you should know. Thaddeus glanced back toward the kennel building. Maddox requested transfer out of SEAL Team 3 within 2 weeks of your father's death, cited personal reasons. But 6 months later, he was reassigned back with a promotion in a new position running the K9 program. That's unusual. It's unheard of. Standard protocol is minimum 2 years before reassignment to the same unit, unless someone with serious pull intervened. Someone like Captain Vance. Exactly. They stood in silence, watching the ocean. Kira felt the weight of what she'd set in motion settling onto her shoulders. This wasn't just about personal revenge anymore. If her father had discovered a smuggling operation run by Navy SEALs, if he'd been murdered to keep that secret, then the corruption went deeper than she'd imagined. There's one more thing, Thaddeus said. If you're going to be here, if you're going to investigate while maintaining your cover as just another handler, you need to be good. Better than good. You need to be exceptional. Because the moment they realize you're Garrett Blackwood's daughter with his skills, they'll be watching everything you do. I can handle the dogs. I know you can. I've read your file. Top marks at Lackland, perfect scores on every certification. But these aren't Air Force working dogs or police canines. These are SEAL combat dogs. The meanest, most dangerous animals the military produces. And they've all been trained by Maddox using methods your father would have hated. He started walking back toward the compound. This afternoon, they're going to test you. It's tradition new handler gets thrown into the deep end, see if they sink or swim. Usually it's harmless. But if Maddox suspects anything, if he wants to send a message, Thaddeus trailed off. Just be careful. What kind of test? They'll probably stick you in with one of the difficult dogs. See how you handle it. Kira thought about Apex, those cold eyes, that scar, the 3 handlers sent to medical. I can handle it. Thaddeus looked at her, and for just a moment she saw her father looking back. The same expression Garrett Blackwood would get before a mission determination mixed with resignation, the face of someone who knew the odds and chose to fight anyway. Yeah, he said quietly, I think you can. The afternoon shift brought chaos. 8 Navy SEALs crowded into the kennel corridor, their presence filling the space with masculine energy and barely suppressed violence. These were operators and men who jumped out of airplanes, kicked down doors, hunted human beings for a living. They carried themselves with the casual confidence of people who knew they were apex predators. Kira stood near Kennel 3, trying to appear invisible while memorizing every face, every name, every detail. Commander Nash Gallagher arrived last. 58 years old, silver-haired, carrying himself with the ramrod straight posture of someone who'd spent 40 years in uniform. His chest displayed ribbons from Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iraq. A combat veteran through and through, he looked at Kira with an expression that mixed skepticism and curiosity. Petty Officer Blackwood, welcome to Naval Special Warfare K-9 Operations. His voice carried the distinctive rasp of someone who'd spent too many years breathing dust and gunpowder. Your file says you're top of your class. We'll see if that translates to real-world performance. Yes, sir. Your father served with me. Garrett Blackwood was one of the finest operators I ever knew. Saved my entire squad in Kandahar, 2009. His dog detected a Taliban ambush before they could spring it. Gallagher's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you, sir. Boone Maddox stepped forward. Commander, if I may, we have a tradition for new handlers. A sort of practical examination. Gallagher nodded slowly. What did you have in mind? Kennel 7, let's see if she can handle Apex. The corridor fell silent. Several of the younger SEALs exchanged glances. One of them, Trent Aldridge, the cocky operator, with too much confidence and not enough experience, grinned. The killer dog. Come on, Senior Chief, that's not fair. Fair's got nothing to do with it, Maddox replied. Combat's not fair. Operations aren't fair. If Blackwood's going to handle our dogs downrange, she needs to prove she can control them when they're at their worst. Commander Gallagher looked uncertain. Boone Apex has injured 3 people. Maybe we should... She'll be fine, right, Blackwood? Your file says you're exceptional. Let's see exceptional. Kira met his stare. She could see it now, clear as day, the calculation behind his eyes. This wasn't about testing her skills. This was about sending a message, about establishing dominance, about showing Garrett Blackwood's daughter exactly what happened to people who didn't follow Senior Chief Maddox's rules. She could back down, refuse the test, request a different assignment, or she could do what her father would have done. I'm ready, sir. Maddox's smile didn't reach his eyes. Excellent. Gentlemen, let's give Petty Officer Blackwood some room to work. They moved as a group toward Kennel 7. Apex paced inside a coiled spring of muscle and aggression. The dog had been isolated for 2 days. Kira could see the signs: hyper-alertness, agitation, the kind of stress response that came from prolonged confinement and food deprivation. Thaddeus Brennan stood near the back of the group, his face carefully neutral, but when Kira caught his eye, she saw the concern there. The fear. Maddox unlocked the kennel door. Simple test, Blackwood. Go in there and get Apex to perform 3 basic commands. Sit, stay, heal. Do that and you pass. And if I can't, then maybe you're not cut out for this line of work. Trent Aldridge pulled out his phone, hitting record. Other operators did the same. This wasn't just a test anymore. It was entertainment. A show. The new girl thrown to the wolves literally for their amusement. Kira looked at Apex. The dog stared back, muscles taut, ready to explode into motion. She thought about her father, about the journal entry, about 12 years of questions and grief and rage that had brought her to this moment, about the promise she'd made at his grave. Open the door, she said. Maddox's smile widened. Your funeral. He pulled the door open, stepped aside, made an exaggerated gesture inviting her forward. Behind her, Trent Aldridge's voice cut through the tension. Die now, bitch. Laughter rippled through the group. Harsh, cruel. The sound of men who believed they were about to witness someone learn a painful lesson about knowing their place. Kira walked into the kennel. The door slammed shut behind her with the finality of a coffin lid closing. Apex turned to face her fully. The dog's lips pulled back, exposing teeth designed by millions of years of evolution for one purpose: killing. A low growl built in its chest, rising in volume and intensity. 10 feet of concrete separated them. Might as well have been 10 miles. Kira stood perfectly still. She thought about what Thaddeus had said, about what her father had written, about the techniques Garrett Blackwood had spent 30 years perfecting and had passed to his daughter during countless hours in kennels just like this one. Trust the dogs. They know who the wolves are. Apex launched forward, 85 pounds of predator, closing distance in explosive bursts of speed. 3 strides. 2, 1. Kira didn't run, didn't flinch, didn't make a sound. Instead, she did something that would have seemed insane to anyone watching from outside the kennel. She turned her body at a 45-degree angle, made herself smaller, lowered her center of gravity into a crouch, and she made a sound, a specific vocalization that came from deep in her throat. Shh. The sound a mother dog makes when calming her pups. A noise that exists below human speech in the ancient language of pack animals. Her father had taught her to make it when she was 8 years old. Apex stopped. 6 feet away, the Wom froze mid-stride, head tilting in confusion. The growl cut off abruptly. Kira continued the vocalization, soft, rhythmic, non-threatening. She slowly sat down on the concrete floor, keeping her body angled away, eyes averted. Submissive posture. No challenge, no threat. She opened her hands, palms up, resting them on her knees, and she waited. Outside the kennel, the silence was absolute. Every seal watching had gone completely still. Even Trent's phone stopped shaking in his hand. Apex took a tentative step forward, then another. The dog's nose worked overtime, processing scents, reading information invisible to human senses. Kira whispered, barely audible, "Easy, warrior. I know they hurt you. I know you're hungry. I know they made you into something you never wanted to be. But I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." The dog moved closer, cautiously now, aggression giving way to curiosity. It sniffed her hands, her neck, her face, reading her story through scent and pheromones. Kira slowly, so slowly it seemed like time itself had downshifted. Raised her right hand, she moved it toward the dog's head, telegraphing the motion, giving Apex every opportunity to pull away. Her fingers found the spot just behind the dog's left ear, a pressure point she'd learned from her father. She applied gentle, circular pressure. Apex's eyes half closed. A sound emerged from the dog's throat, not a growl this time, but something else, almost like a sigh. Kira's other hand found the matching spot behind the right ear. She massaged both pressure points simultaneously, using her thumbs to work the tension out of muscles that had been wound tight for too long. "That's it," she whispered. "Let it go. You're safe now. I've got you." Pex made a sound that was almost a whimper, the kind of noise that suggested pain, releasing stress, draining away. And then in a movement that seemed to defy everything the observers thought they knew about this animal, the dog lay down. Not in submission, in trust. Apex rested its massive head on Kira's lap. She stroked the scarred muzzle, gently feeling the old wounds, the places where this magnificent animal had been hurt, in service to humans who'd never properly thanked it. "Good boy," she murmured. "Such a good boy. You've been so brave, so strong, but you don't have to fight anymore. Not with me. Never with me." She sat there for a full minute, just breathing with the bomb, feeling the rise and fall of its ribs, establishing connection, building trust, creating the foundation of a partnership. Finally, she spoke clearly, confidently, using the commands in German that SEAL combat dogs were trained to understand. "Apex, sits." The dog immediately sat up, attentive. "Platz." Down, Apex dropped into a prone position, eyes locked on Kira's face. "Beifuss." Heel. Apex moved to her left side, matching her pace perfectly as she stood and walked toward the kennel door. She knocked twice on the chain link fence. The door opened. Kira walked out with Apex at perfect heel, the dog's shoulder aligned with her left leg, moving in synchronized steps that spoke of complete trust and understanding. The corridor remained silent. 8 Navy SEALs stared at her with expressions ranging from shock to disbelief. Trent Aldridge's phone had stopped recording. His jaw hung open like someone had disconnected the muscles controlling it. Commander Gallagher slowly straightened from where he'd been leaning against the opposite wall. His eyes moved from Kira to Apex and back again. "I'll be damned," he said softly. Boone Maddox stood frozen, his face drained of color. Kira watched emotions flicker across his features. Surprise, yes, but underneath that, something darker. Something that looked almost like fear. She stopped directly in front of him. Apex sat without being commanded, a solid presence at her side. When Kira spoke, her voice carried through the corridor with perfect clarity. "Your training methods are outdated, Senior Chief. Starvation and isolation don't create discipline. They create trauma. Apex isn't aggressive, he's terrified. He's been hurt, punished, treated like a weapon instead of a partner, and he deserves better." She paused, letting the words sink in. I'm Garrett Blackwood's daughter. My father taught me that dogs are teammates, not tools. He taught me to earn their trust instead of demanding their submission. He taught me that real strength isn't about domination, it's about partnership. Another pause. Kira looked at each face in turn, memorizing reactions, filing away information. I'm here to do his job, the right way. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to collapse the building. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. The sound echoed off concrete and faded into nothing. Commander Gallagher cleared his throat. I think we've seen enough. Petty Officer Blackwood, welcome to the K-9 program. Officially, he turned to Maddox. Boone assigned her to primary handler rotation. She's earned it. Maddox's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Yes, sir. The SEALs began filing out conversations, starting in low murmurs. Trent Aldrich paused as he passed Kira. That was incredible. I've never seen anyone handle Apex like that. Thank you. I'm sorry, about earlier. The phone, the comment, that was out of line. Kira studied him. Young, maybe 28, still trying to prove himself. The kind of operator who acted tough because he wasn't entirely sure he was tough enough. Apex forgave you the moment I walked out of that kennel, she said. I can too. He nodded, something like respect in his eyes, and walked away. Eventually, only 3 people remained in the corridor. Kira Thaddeus and Boone Maddox. Maddox stared at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. You're good, better than I expected. But being good with dogs isn't enough. Combat operations require more than party tricks. I'm aware, sir. Your father was good too. One of the best. Maddox's eyes went flat. He's dead. Has been for 12 years. Maybe you should think about whether following in his footsteps is really the smart play. The threat wasn't subtle. Kira held his gaze, refusing to look away first. I've thought about nothing else for 12 years, Senior Chief, and I'm exactly where I need to be. Something shifted in Maddox's expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of an enemy he'd underestimated. He turned and walked away without another word, his footsteps echoing until the corridor door slammed shut. Thaddeus limped over his face, a mixture of pride and concern. Your father would have been proud, he said quietly. That was exactly how he would have handled it. I learned from the best. But now Maddox knows you're a threat. He'll be watching you. Every move, every interaction. If he suspects what you're really doing here, let him watch. Kira looked down at Apex, who sat calmly at her side. The terror and aggression from earlier completely vanished. I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. Thaddeus nodded slowly. Then we need to be smart. Careful. Your father rushed in when he found evidence of corruption, and they killed him for it. We can't make the same mistake. What do you suggest? We gather evidence, document everything, build a case so airtight that even Vance's political connections won't save him. He glanced toward where Maddox had disappeared. And we do it without tipping our hand until we're ready to move. Agreed, Dane, but there's something else I need to tell you. Kira reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I decoded another entry from my father's journal last night, from October 12th, 2011, 3 days before he died. Thaddeus unfolded the paper. Read. His face went pale. The entry was simple, devastating. 5 Vipers confirmed. BM or V, BH, DH, WS. Operation larger than suspected, not just weapons, radiological materials. Destination unknown. Payment $40 million over 3 years. Source inside a NavSpec Warcom providing protection. Must expose before next editment. Meeting TB is tomorrow. If I don't make it, Kira will finish this. She's stronger than she knows. BH, DH.TS. Thaddeus read aloud. Any ideas? I've been cross-referencing personnel records from my father's final deployment. BH could be Blake Hutchinson, Lieutenant Commander currently stationed at SEAL Team 5. DH might be Derek Hollis, Chief Warrant Officer, Special Operations. WS, she paused. I'm still working on that one. 5 corrupt SEALs, running a smuggling operation for 15 years. Jesus Christ. Thaddeus refolded the paper with shaking hands. If this is true, if your father found evidence of radiological materials being smuggled by Navy personnel, Then they killed him to protect a multi-million-dollar operation that's been funding terrorism for over a decade. They stood in the corridor surrounded by the sounds of bass and the smell of concrete and the weight of implications too large to fully process. "We need to be careful," Thaddeus said again, "if they even suspect." "I know, but we also can't wait too long. Every day they operate is another day they're putting American lives at risk." "Agreed. So what's our next move?" Before Kira could answer, Commander Gallagher appeared in the doorway. His expression was grave. "Blackwood, Brennan, my office, now." They followed him across the compound to a nondescript administration building. Gallagher's office occupied a corner on the second floor's small functional walls covered with photos from deployments and commendations from wars. He closed the door behind them and gestured to chairs. "Sit." They sat. Apex settled at Kira's feet without being commanded. Gallagher moved behind his desk but didn't sit. He stood with hands braced on the wooden surface, looking at them with an expression that mixed concern and calculation. "I'm going to say something, and I need you both to listen carefully. Kira, your performance today was exceptional, too exceptional. You handled a dangerous animal with techniques that looked exactly like the ones your father used, which raises some questions." "Sir, I'm not finished. Garrett Blackwood was my friend. He saved my life. When he died, I pushed for a full investigation. I was told to let it go. Operational security. Need to know. All the bureaucratic bullshit that translates to shut up and follow orders." Gallagher finally sat down his chair, creaking. "I never bought the official story. IED explosion, Taliban ambush. Too convenient, too clean. But I'm just a commander. Captain Vance is NavSpec Warcom. He's got stars on his shoulder and senators on speed dial. I couldn't push without evidence." He looked directly at Kira. "You're here for a reason, and I don't think it's just to carry on your father's work. I think you're investigating his death." Silence filled the office. Outside, seagulls called. Somewhere in the building, a door slammed. Kira made a decision. "Yes, sir, I am." Gallagher nodded slowly like he'd expected the answer. "What have you found?" "Evidence that my father discovered a smuggling operation. 5 corrupt SEALs, possibly including Senior Chief Maddox and Captain Vance. Radiological materials sold to hostile entities. $40 million over 15 years. "Christ," Gallagher ran a hand through his silver hair. "Can you prove it?" "Not yet, but I will. And when you do, I'm bringing them all down. Every single one." The commander studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to Thaddeus. "And you're helping her?" "Garrett was my brother in everything but blood. If Kira's right, if he was murdered by our own people, then yes, I'm helping her finish what he started." Gallagher leaned back in his chair, made a decision. "We've got a mission. Mexico border 3 days from now. Cartel interdiction operation. Intel suggests major smuggling activity. Cocaine weapons, high-value targets. SEAL team deployment, full tactical package." He paused. "You'll both be going. Kira as primary K9 handler, Thaddeus as civilian tactical advisor. It'll give you access to personnel operations communications. If there's corruption in this unit, a field deployment will expose it." "Sir," Kira said carefully, "with respect, if Maddox is involved, putting us in the field with him could be dangerous." "I know. That's why I'll be there too. And Doc Kincaid, and a few other operators I trust absolutely. If Maddox makes a move, we'll be ready." Thaddeus leaned forward. "Nash, you're risking your career. Hell, you're risking prison if this goes sideways. Garrett Blackwood saved my life. I owe him a debt I can never repay. But maybe I can give his daughter a chance to get justice." Gallagher stood. "Mission brief is tomorrow at 0600. Get some rest. You're going to need it." They left the office and walked back across the compound in silence. The sun had started its descent toward the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Combat colors. When they reached the kennels, Thaddeus stopped. "There's something you should see. Come on." He led her around the back of the building to a small storage shed, unlocked the door. Inside, covered in dusty tarps, sat boxes and crates marked with evidence tags. "Your father's personal effects, everything recovered from Kandahar. The Navy stored it here because he'd been assigned to this facility. Nobody ever claimed it." Kira's throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me? I only found it 3 months ago. Been trying to figure out what to do with it ever since." He pulled a tarp off the nearest crate. Now I know, it belongs to you. She approached slowly, lifted the lid. Inside, carefully packed and labeled, were the fragments of Garrett Blackwood's life. His gear, his weapons, his personal items. And underneath everything else, carefully wrapped in plastic, another journal. Kira lifted it out with trembling hands, opened to a random page. Her father's handwriting stared back at her. June 15, 2011. Kandahar. Another shipment confirmed tonight. Watched BM meeting with unknown contractors at 0300. Packages exchanged, radiation signatures detected by Sergeant my K9 partner. This is bigger than I thought. Need to get evidence back to TB. If something happens to me, these journals contain everything. Tell Kira I love her. Tell her to be brave. Tell her the pack protects the pack. There are 5 journals total, Thaddeus said quietly. I've been trying to decode them, but your father's cipher is too complex. I think he designed it that way, so only someone with his training, his knowledge could read them. Someone like his daughter. Exactly. Kira closed the journal carefully. I'll take them, all of them, and I'll decode every word. Be careful. If those journals contain evidence of corruption, and if the wrong people find out you have them, I know, but this is what I came here for. What I've been preparing for since I was 14 years old. They carried the crates to Kiera's assigned quarters, a small room in the junior enlisted barracks, barely large enough for a bed and desk. Apex settled in the corner, finally relaxed the trauma of his morning experience, fading under Kira's gentle presence. After Thaddeus left, Kira sat at the desk and opened the first journal. Started reading. Her father's words preserved across 12 years and 10,000 miles, speaking to her from beyond death. Hours passed, the sun set, darkness filled the room, broken only by a small desk lamp. At midnight, Kira found an entry that made her blood run cold. October 14, 2011. Final entry before mission. Tomorrow we patrol Route Dover. Standard sweep, but I have bad feeling. BM volunteered to ride in my vehicle. Never done that before. RV personally selected the route. Also unusual. I've informed TB of my suspicions. Given him copy of evidence. If I don't return, he knows what to do. To Kira, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry, I won't be there to teach you, protect. You watch you grow into the woman I know you'll become. But you're strong, stronger than you know. Finish what I started. Expose the vipers. Protect the pack. Trust the beasts. They know who the wolves are. I love you, baby girl. Always and forever. Dad, Kira closed the journal. Sat in darkness with Apex sleeping at her feet and her father's final words echoing in her mind. I'll finish it, Dad, she whispered to the empty room. I promise every single one of them will pay. Apex raised his head, looked at her with those intelligent eyes, and in that moment Kira understood what her father had meant. Dogs knew. They could sense character, read intention, detect danger invisible to human senses. Apex had attacked her initially because he'd been conditioned to attack. But the moment she'd shown him kindness, respect, partnership, the moment she'd treated him like Garrett Blackwood would have, the dog had known. She was pack, and the pack protected the pack. Kira reached down and stroked Apex's scarred head. Tomorrow, boy, tomorrow we start hunting wolves. The dog's tail thumped once against the floor, a sound of agreement, of loyalty, of trust. Outside, the Pacific Ocean crashed against the shore in endless rhythm. Inside, Kira Blackwood prepared for war. Not the kind fought with guns and grenades, but the kind fought with evidence and exposure. The kind that would either bring justice for her father or get her killed trying. She was ready for either outcome. The desert night swallowed sound. 3 days had passed since Commander Gallagher's briefing in his cramped office. 3 days of preparation, weapons checks, intelligence reviews, and the careful dance of appearing normal while hunting traitors who wore the same uniform. 3 days of Kira reading her father's journals late into the night, decoding entries that revealed the scope of corruption he'd uncovered before they killed him. Now she stood in darkness, 3 miles north of the Mexico border, surrounded by desolation that stretched in every direction. The kind of wasteland where smugglers operated and people disappeared without questions being asked. Kira moved through the night with Apex at her side, the dog's breathing synchronized with her own. 48 degrees Fahrenheit now that the sun had set. Cold enough that her breath misted in the air, visible even through her PVS-31 night vision goggles. The enhanced optics painted everything in shades of green and black, turning the landscape into something alien and hostile. Apex stopped suddenly. His ears rotated forward, nose twitching as he processed sense invisible to human perception. Contact. Kira dropped to one knee behind a rock formation, one hand resting on the dog's shoulders. Through her night vision, she could see nothing yet. But Apex knew. 8 years of training compressed into 85 pounds of muscle and instinct. The dog had never been wrong. Alpha 6, this is Alpha 2. She kept her voice to a whisper, the throat mic picking up the sub-vocalization. Apex has scent trail approximately 2 hours old. Multiple individuals heading northwest toward target building. Commander Gallagher's voice crackled through her earpiece. Copy Alpha 2. Hold position and observe. Do not advance until we have full team coordination. Roger. Kira settled into her position, scanning the terrain ahead. The abandoned mining structure sat half a mile distant, a relic from California's gold rush days, now repurposed for activities far less legal than prospecting. Intelligence suggested tonight's meeting involved major cartel operations. 500 kilograms of cocaine plus unknown, high-value cargo. What the intelligence hadn't mentioned was why Boone Maddox had volunteered to lead Bravo team for this operation, or why he'd specifically requested that Kira be assigned to Alpha team instead of working under his direct command. Red flags, all of them. Apex's muscles tensed a fraction before Kira's conscious mind registered the sound. Vehicle engines, distant but approaching. Alpha 6 contact. 3 vehicles inbound from South Heavy class approaching grid reference 729er. Visual confirmation. Kira raised her night vision device to maximum magnification. 3 Suburbans materialized from the darkness, moving in tactical formation. Not the beat-up trucks typical of cartel operations. These were new, armored, moving with military precision. Confirmed, black Suburbans, armored configuration, military-grade movement patterns. Sir, this doesn't match our intelligence profile. A pause on the radio. When Gallagher spoke again, his voice carried tension. All teams' weapons hold. Something's wrong here. The vehicles stopped near the mining structure. Doors opened with synchronized precision. Personnel dismounted 8 individuals, all moving with the kind of tactical efficiency that came from military training. Even at this distance, their silhouettes screamed, "Operator, not cartel, Sicario." Apex growled softly, not his aggressive sound, his warning sound. The one that meant danger of a different kind than expected. "Good boy," Kira whispered, fingers working through the fur behind his ears. "I see them too." She watched the operators move to the rear vehicles and begin unloading cargo. Metal cases approximately 2 feet long, 18 inches wide. Heavy enough that it took 2 men to carry each one. Kira zoomed her optics, trying to get better resolution. The cases had stenciled markings on their sides. Faded, barely visible even with night vision enhancement. Then she saw it clearly. 3 triangles arranged in a trefoil pattern. The international symbol for radioactive materials. Her heart rate spiked. Alpha 6, the cargo isn't drugs. Repeat, I'm seeing radiation hazard symbols on the cases. This is not a standard cartel operation. Say again, Alpha 2. The cases have radiation warnings, sir. Military transport containers. These aren't smugglers. These are operators moving weapons-grade materials. A new voice cut into the radio net. Senior Chief Boone Maddox commanding Bravo team from his overwatch position 300 yards east. Alpha 6 Bravo 1 confirms Alpha 2's assessment. I have visual on the containers. Those are radiological transport cases, military specification. How the hell did cartel smugglers get radioactive materials? Gallagher's confusion was obvious. Kira's mind raced through possibilities, discarding the implausible ones. They didn't, sir. Look at the personnel, their movement patterns, their gear, their discipline. These aren't cartel members. These are trained military operators. Before anyone could respond, the desert night exploded. Gunfire shattered the silence. Muzzle flashes strobed in the darkness as a third force, actual cartel sicarios, 15 or 20 of them, ambushed the group near the mining structure. The distinctive chatter of AK-47s mixed with the sharper reports of M4 carbines returning fire. All teams, Gallagher's voice cut through chaos. We have active engagement, multiple hostiles. Alpha and Bravo teams move to contain. Charlie team establish perimeter. Rules of engagement, weapons free if fired upon. Priority objectives, secure those containers before they disappear. Kira was already moving before the order finished. Apex matched her stride perfectly, both of them flowing across broken ground like shadows. Her training took over the countless hours at Lackland, the endless repetitions, the muscle memory built through sweat and discipline, and her father's voice in her head, stay low, move fast, trust your dog. She reached a position 40 yards from the firefight and dropped her prone behind a low ridge. Apex pressed against her side, solid and warm and absolutely steady, despite the chaos erupting ahead. Through the strobing muzzle flashes, she tracked three operators, struggling with containers trying to evacuate toward their vehicles while their teammates provided covering fire. Alpha 2 has eyes on package, three individuals attempting exfil with containers heading northeast. Intercept if possible, Gallagher ordered, but do not engage alone. Wait for backup. Footsteps approach from her right. Kira spun weapon rising, finger taking slack on the trigger. Thaddeus Brennan materialized from darkness. 67 years old, but moving with the fluid precision of someone who'd spent 40 years in combat. He carried his M4 like it was an extension of his body, and probably was metaphorically speaking. I'm with you, he said simply. No discussion, no debate, just the statement of someone who'd made a decision. They moved together toward the mining structure entrance. The three men with containers had already disappeared inside an old shaft leading underground. Kira gestured to Apex. The dog's nose went to work immediately tracking scents through gunpowder residue and dust. The shaft descended at a steep angle. Emergency lighting recently installed, not original to the mine, cast everything in harsh shadows. Metal grating rang under their boots. Somewhere ahead, voices echoed back, distorted by stone walls and distance. Kira held up a fist. Stop. Listen. The voices grew clearer. Should have been clear. Someone talked. Doesn't matter now. Get the package to the secondary site. Vance will handle cleanup. Vance, Captain Richard Vance. The name from her father's journal. Kira looked at Thaddeus, saw recognition flash in his eyes. Understanding, confirmation that the conspiracy was real, was here, was happening right now. They moved forward, weapons up, Apex leading but silent as death itself. The shaft opened into a larger chamber, an old equipment room, now repurposed as a staging area. Industrial shelving lined the walls, and there, loading containers onto a hidden ATV, three men in tactical gear worked with urgent efficiency. Kira stepped into the chamber, M18 pistol extended in a two-handed grip. Federal agents don't move. It was a bluff. She wasn't federal anything. But the psychology worked on instinct. Most people froze when confronted with authority and weapons. Two of the three operators started to comply, hands rising slowly. Professional enough to recognize when they were outgunned. The third man reached for his sidearm. Apex was faster. The Belgian Malinois launched across 15 feet of space in less than 2 seconds. 85 pounds of trained fury hit the gunman's center mass. The impact drove him backward. Apex's jaws clamped onto his weapon arm just below the elbow. Bone crunched audibly. The man screamed. His pistol clattered across stone floor, skittering into shadows. Apex, hold, Kira commanded. The dog maintained his grip, but didn't tear. Perfect control, holding the threat immobile without causing unnecessary damage beyond the initial takedown. Thaddeus moved forward with cable ties ready. On your knees, hands behind your heads. Now. The two uninjured operators complied. They were professionals, knew when they were beaten, knew that resistance would only make things worse. Kira kept her weapon trained on them while Thaddeus secured their wrists with zip ties, cinching them tight enough to prevent escape but not tight enough to cut off circulation. Who do you work for? Kira demanded. Silence. Both men stared straight ahead, expressions blank. They'd been trained to resist interrogation, probably at the same schools where Navy SEALs learned similar techniques. Those containers are radiological materials, weapons grade. You're transporting materials that could be used in terrorist attacks. That's federal prison for life, no parole, unless you cooperate. Still nothing. These weren't amateurs caught in over their heads. These were operators who knew exactly what they were doing and had accepted the consequences before they started. Kira tried a different approach. My father discovered this operation 12 years ago. Master Chief Garrett Blackwood. You know that name? A flicker in one man's eyes. Recognition. Fear, maybe. He threatened to expose you. So you killed him. Made it look like an IED, but he left evidence. Journals. Documentation. Names. She paused, letting it sink in. I know about the 5 SEALs running this operation. I know about Captain Vance. I know about Senior Chief Maddox. And I know about you. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush stone. Then a voice spoke from the shadows at the chamber's far end. They work for me. Senior Chief Boone Maddox stepped into the light, his M4 rifle pointed directly at Kira's chest. Behind him, 2 more operators emerged from concealment. All 3 had clear lines of fire. Time seemed to slow. Kira's mind processed 1,000 details in the space between heartbeats. Maddox's positioning, tactically perfect, clear shot, oh, no cover for her. His weapon selector switch, visible even from this distance, set to full auto. His expression, cold calculation, no hesitation, no doubt. The expression of someone who'd made this decision before and wouldn't lose sleep over making it again. Lower your weapon, Blackwood, Maddox said calmly. Professional, like he was conducting a training exercise instead of preparing to commit murder. Or I put 3 rounds in your chest before you can blink. Kira didn't move, didn't lower her weapon. You killed my father. Your father was a liability, smart man, exceptional handler, but too much integrity for his own good. Maddox's tone held no remorse, just flat pragmatism. He found out about our operation, threatened to expose us, destroy everything we'd built over 15 years, so we eliminated the problem. You murdered him. We removed a threat to operational security. There's a difference. This operation has generated over $40 million since 2009. Supplied materials to clients who pay in cash, no questions asked. Your father wanted to throw all that away over abstract principles like honor and duty. Maddox shook his head. He gave us no choice. There's always a choice. Not in our world. In our, well, you're either predator or prey. Your father chose wrong, and now you're standing exactly where he stood, making the same mistakes, about to learn the same lessons. Kira's finger rested on her trigger. She could shoot, could try. Maddox was 15 feet away, 3 rounds center mass, but his 2 backup operators would kill her and Thaddeus before their bodies hit the ground. Tactical mathematics, unwinnable odds. How did it happen? Kira asked, buying time, looking for options. My father's death. I want to know exactly how you did it. Maddox considered for a moment, then shrugged. Why not? You'll be dead in 5 minutes anyway. Derek Hollis planted the IED on your father's patrol route. I provided the intelligence, told Garrett his team needed to sweep Route Dover, said there was high-value intelligence about Taliban movements. He trusted me, believed me, never suspected that his commanding officer would send him straight into a kill zone. The IED went off, but my father survived the initial blast. He did, thrown clear, broken legs, burns, but alive. So Derek finished the job, put a knife in his chest, made sure there were no survivors who could ask inconvenient questions. Then we called it in Taliban ambush, IED explosion, catastrophic casualties. Case closed. Kira's hands trembled with rage. Her father hadn't died instantly in an explosion. He'd survived. Had time to realize he'd been betrayed. Had time to feel the blade that ended his life. You son of a bitch. I'm a realist. Your father was an idealist. That's why he's dead, and I'm about to retire with $20 million in offshore accounts. Maddox's weapon never wavered. Now put the gun down, or I kill all 3 of you right here. Movement exploded from multiple directions simultaneously. Thaddeus, despite his age and that permanent limp from Panama, moved with muscle memory built over 4 decades of combat. He lunged sideways toward Maddox, bringing his M4 up, even as Maddox's rifle tracked to follow him. Kira dropped and rolled, left her body remembering training drills practiced 10,000 times. She came up firing 2 shots at the nearest backup operator. Both rounds hit center mass. The man went down hard. An Apex loyal, brilliant, perfectly trained Apex launched himself at the second backup operator without being commanded. Pure instinct. Pure pack loyalty. 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois hit the man before he could fire, jaws clamping onto his gun arm, dragging him to the ground. Gunfire erupted in the enclosed space. The sound was deafening. Muzzle flashes strobed like lightning. Cordite smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe, hard to see, hard to think through the chaos. Kira fired again at the operator she'd hit, made sure he stayed down, then pivoted toward Maddox. But Thaddeus was in the way. The two men grappling for control of their weapons, struggling for dominance, neither willing to give ground. Maddox broke free suddenly, swung his rifle like a club. The stock caught Thaddeus across the side of his head with a sickening crack. The older man staggered, blood streaming from his temple, eyes unfocused. No. Kira moved forward, weapon tracking Maddox, but the senior chief was already moving. He kicked Thaddeus's rifle away, then dropped his own weapon and pulled a knife, a 7-inch K-bar, the blade blackened to prevent reflection. The same knife he'd used to kill Garrett Blackwood. "I gutted your father with this blade," Maddox said, breathing hard but still controlled. Looked him in the eyes while he bled out. He kept talking about honor, about duty, about how we'd betrayed everything the uniform stands for, right up until I twisted the knife and ended his self-righteous sermon. Rage flooded through Kira like liquid fire, white-hot, all-consuming. She could shoot him, should shoot him. One trigger pull and Boone Maddox would be dead. But she needed him alive, needed his testimony, needed him to expose Vance and the others. Justice required sacrifice. Her father had taught her that. "On your knees," Kira said, voice steady despite the fury burning in her chest. "Hands behind your head, you're under arrest." Maddox laughed, actually laughed. "You don't have the stones to shoot me. Just like Garrett didn't have the stones when I gave him the chance to walk away." He kept talking about doing the right thing. The smile was cruel. "Right up until I stuck this blade between his ribs and watched the light go out of his eyes." He moved. Fast. Professional. The attack of someone who'd spent 30 years learning to kill efficiently with blades in hands when guns weren't an option. The K-bar came up in a gutting stroke designed to open Kyra from groin to sternum. She twisted the blade, missing by inches, feeling the wind of its passage across her stomach. Kira brought her pistol up, but Maddox was inside her reach now, too close for firearms to be effective. His free hand caught her wrist, forcing the weapon aside with brutal strength. She was fast, well-trained, athletic from years of handler work. But Maddox had 60 pounds on her and 3 decades of experience in hand-to-hand combat. He forced her backward. Her shoulders hit the stone wall. The impact drove air from her lungs in an explosive gasp. The knife came up again, blade aimed at her throat. And then apex hit Maddox from behind. The dog's jaws clamped onto Maddox's knife arm at the elbow joint. Bone crunched audibly. Maddox screamed a sound of pure agony that echoed off stone walls. The K-bar fell from nerveless fingers, clattering across the floor. Kira didn't hesitate. She brought her knee up into Maddox's groin. Once. Twice. The senior chief doubled over, gasping, the fight draining out of him. She stepped back, raised her pistol, fired once. The round hit Maddox's left shoulder, precisely placed to incapacitate without killing. He collapsed, clutching the wound, blood seeping between his fingers. "Apex out," Kira commanded. The dog released immediately, returning to heel position, muzzle stained red. Thaddeus was on his feet now, bleeding from his head wound but functional. He collected the fallen weapons, securing them away from the prisoners. Kira stood over Maddox, weapon pointed at his face. "Senior Chief Boone Maddox, you're under arrest for treason, smuggling of controlled materials, conspiracy to commit murder, and the murder of Master Chief Garrett Blackwood. You have the right to remain silent." "Save it," Maddox interrupted, laughing wetly. Blood flecked his lips. "You think catching me changes anything? Vance knows you're here, knows what you're doing. He's got contingencies for contingencies. Lawyers, connections, political cover all the way to the Pentagon. You're not taking down the operation. You're just signing your own death warrant. Then we'll see who dies first." "Not me. I'm too valuable. I'll cut a deal. Trade testimony for immunity. Walk away from this while you end up in a body bag like your father." Kira's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure. That's all it would take. One small movement, and Boone Maddox would be dead, would never hurt anyone again, would never make another deal or walk free, or Thaddeus's hand rested gently on her shoulder. "Don't. He's not worth it. And we need him alive." She took a shuddering breath, lowered the weapon. Get me restraints. While Thaddeus secured Maddox with heavy-duty zip ties, Kira checked on Apex. The dog had minor lacerations on his muzzle from the fight, but nothing serious. She ran her hands over his body, checking for injuries, finding only bruises and stress. "Good boy," she whispered. "Such a good boy. You saved my life." Apex licked her face, tail wagging despite the violence he'd just participated in. Ready to go again, if needed. That was the nature of working dogs' absolute commitment to their handlers, regardless of personal cost. Outside the chamber, the firefight had ended. Radio chatter indicated SEAL teams had subdued the cartel members and secured the mysterious operators. But 3 men had escaped with 2 containers of radioactive materials. 2 containers still missing. 2 potential dirty bombs in hostile hands. They hauled Maddox back to the surface, half dragging him when he couldn't walk on his own. The senior chief left a blood trail across stone and metal grating. Neither Kira nor Thaddeus felt particularly concerned about his comfort. Commander Gallagher met them at the mine entrance. His expression cycled through shock, fury, and grim satisfaction as he took in the scene. Maddox wounded and restrained, blood-stained and defeated. "Senior Chief Maddox," Gallagher said quietly, "I've known you for 15 years, served with you, trusted you, and you've been a traitor the entire time. Save the moral posturing, Nash. You'd have done the same thing if you'd had the balls. We all know what we're worth to the Navy. This operation just made sure we got paid what we deserved. You murdered Garrett Blackwood. I did what was necessary. He would have destroyed everything, cost us millions. So yes, I killed him, and I'd do it again." Gallagher's jaw clenched so hard Kira heard teeth grinding. For a moment she thought the commander might shoot Maddox himself, but discipline held, training held. "Get him in the truck," Gallagher ordered Doc Kincaid. "Treat his wounds enough to keep him alive. Then cuff him to the frame. If he tries anything, shoot him in the other shoulder." Doc Kincaid, reliable, competent. Doc Kincaid moved forward with his medical kit. His hands worked efficiently, packing Maddox's gunshot wound with gauze, wrapping it tight to slow the bleeding. Not gentle, but effective. "You're all dead," Maddox said as they loaded him into the tactical truck. "Vance will hunt you down, everyone you care about, everyone who helps you. He's done it before, he'll do it again." "Let him try," Kira said coldly. They drove back to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado as dawn painted the sky in shades of orange and red. Combat colors. The colors of battles fought and blood spilled and justice pursued at great personal cost. At the base, NCIS was already waiting. Agent Rebecca Torres, 42 years old, steel gray eyes, the kind of competence that came from decades investigating cases that would break. Lesser people took custody of Maddox immediately. "Petty Officer Blackwood," Torres said, "I've read the preliminary reports. This is bigger than anyone realized. It's been running for 16 years, 5 corrupt SEALs, $40 million, radioactive materials sold to terrorist organizations, and my father was murdered because he tried to stop it. I'm sorry for your father and for the fact that our system let this happen for so long." Torres looked at Maddox, now secured in the NCIS vehicle. "But we're going to make it right. I promise you that." Over the next 6 hours, Maddox talked. Not immediately, not willingly. But faced with overwhelming evidence, the containers, the financial records, Kira's testimony, the body camera footage from the mine shaft, he made the calculation that survival required cooperation. He confirmed everything: the smuggling operation, the 5 conspirators, the murder of Garrett Blackwood, and most importantly, he named Captain Richard Vance as the mastermind, the one with connections to protect the operation, the one who'd recruited the others, the one who'd personally ordered Garrett Blackwood's execution. "Vance has been running this for 16 years, Maddox said during his formal statement. "He's got files on everyone, dirt on admirals, senators, defense contractors. He's protected because he knows where every body's buried, literally and figuratively. You arrest him and he'll burn the whole military establishment to the ground before he goes down. Then we make sure the case is airtight," Torres said. "So good that even his connections can't save him." That evening, Kira returned to her quarters exhausted but unable to sleep. Apex settled in his usual spot, pressed against her bed, providing comfort through simple presence. Her phone rang, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. Petty Officer Blackwood. The voice was cultured, educated, carrying the kind of authority that came from decades at the top of military hierarchy. My name is Captain Richard Vance. I believe we need to talk. Kira's hand tightened on the phone. I have nothing to say to you. Even if I can offer information about your father's death, about exactly what happened in Kandahar, I have footage, Kira, video from the operation. Would you like to see how Garrett Blackwood really died? Her breath caught. You're lying. Meet me tomorrow night. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado Building 47 in the Warehouse District. 2200 hours. Come alone and I'll show you everything. It's a trap. Of course it is, but you'll come anyway, because you need the truth more than you need safety, just like your father. A pause. He died well, if that is any comfort, fought until the very end, but he was always going to lose. He was one man against a system designed to protect itself. I'm not alone. I have allies, evidence, witnesses. You have Maddox, who'll say anything to avoid federal prison. You have an old man who can barely walk, and you have a vendetta that's about to get you killed. Vance's tone shifted, became almost gentle. I'm offering you what I never offered Garrett, a chance to walk away. Take the deal. Forget about your father's death and move on with your life. Like you buried my father. Exactly like that. It's the smart play, the safe play. My father didn't take the safe play, and now he's dead. Ask yourself, is that really the legacy you want to honor? Dying for nothing, accomplishing nothing, leaving nothing behind but grief. Kira's jaw clenched. Building 47 tomorrow night. I'll be there. Come alone or civilians die. I'll have operators positioned throughout the base. One wrong move and innocent people pay the price. The line went dead. Kira sat in darkness, phone still pressed to her ear, mind racing through implications and possibilities. Thaddeus appeared in her doorway minutes later. She didn't question how he knew something was wrong. They'd developed that kind of connection over the past weeks. The bond of people who'd fought together, bled together, trusted each other, absolutely. What happened? He asked. Vance called. He wants to meet. Says he has footage of my father's death. It's definitely a trap. I know. You're going anyway. I have to. If there's even a chance he's telling the truth, then you walk into an ambush that will end with you dead and all our evidence buried. Thaddeus sat beside him. Listen to me. Garrett was my brother. I loved him like family, but he made a mistake. He confronted the enemy before he had enough support, enough backup, enough evidence to make it stick, and they killed him for it. So what do? Just let Vance walk. Let him keep operating. No, we be smarter than your father. We build the case properly. We bring in Torres Gallagher, everyone we trust absolutely, and we turn Vance's trap into ours. Kira looked at him, saw the scars and the gray hair and the limp that never quite went away, saw 40 years of service and sacrifice and hard-won wisdom. How? We let you meet him, but not alone. We wire you for audio and video. We position tactical teams in concealment. We let Vance talk, confess, incriminate himself. And then we take him down with overwhelming force and incontrovertible evidence. Torres will never approve an operation like that. Then we ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Worst case, we all end up court-martialed. Best case, we end a 16-year conspiracy and prevent terrorist attacks. Thaddeus managed a tired smile. Personally, I can live with either outcome. They planned through the night, every detail, every contingency, every possible way the meeting could go wrong and how to respond. By dawn, they had a plan, risky, dangerous, could easily end with people dead, but it was the only chance they had. The next morning brought chaos of a different kind. Kira arrived at the kennels to find Trent Aldrich standing outside, face pale, hands shaking. Blood stained his uniform. What happened? Kira demanded. Luna. His voice broke. Someone got to her, poisoned her food. She started seizing 20 minutes ago. Doc's with her, but Kira pushed past him into the kennel building. Found Doc Kincaid kneeling beside a Belgian Malinois, his hands covered in blood, his expression devastated. She's gone, Doc said quietly. Died 3 minutes ago. Tried everything, but whatever they used worked too fast. Kira's knees nearly buckled. Luna. one of the program's best dogs. Smart, loyal, with 3 successful deployments under her collar. Who did this? Don't know for certain, but it was deliberate. Someone put something in her food bowl. Had to happen last night while we were on operation. Vance, Thaddeus said from behind her, sending a message, showing he can get to us anytime he wants. Rage flooded through Kira, but she forced it down, locked it away, channeled it into cold determination. Check every other dog, she ordered. Every food bowl, every water dish. I want guards posted 24/7. Nobody gets near these animals without clearance from me or Doc Kincaid personally. Already done, Doc confirmed. 2 loyal operators standing watch. But Kira, this is just the beginning. Vance is escalating. Good, let him escalate. It won't matter. She knelt beside Luna's body, placing a hand on still warm fur. I'm sorry, girl. You deserve better. Apex approached, slowly sniffing his fallen packmate. A low whine emerged from his throat, grief in its purest form. 2 hours later, Kira and Thaddeus drove to his apartment to retrieve additional evidence. The materials from 12 years of investigation that would corroborate everything Maddox had confessed. They'd made it into the parking lot when the explosion hit. A fireball erupted from underneath Thaddeus's truck, lifting the vehicle 3 feet off the ground. Metal shrieked. Glass shattered. The concussive blast wave threw both of them against their seats hard enough to crack ribs. Kira's ears rang. Her vision swam. Through smoke and flames, she saw Thaddeus slumped against the driver's door, blood streaming from a deep gash on his forehead. Thaddeus, she grabbed him, shook him. Stay with me. His eyes fluttered open. Cart, bomb. Don't talk, save your strength. Kira kicked open her door. The frame was bent, but it gave way. She pulled Thaddeus across the seats, dragging him away from the burning vehicle despite protests from her own injuries. They'd made it 15 feet when the fuel tank exploded. The second blast was even larger, sending debris raining down in a lethal storm of superheated metal. Kira threw herself over Thaddeus, shielding him with her body. Something hot scored across her back, a piece of shrapnel glowing and sharp. Pain exploded, but she held position until the debris stopped falling. Silence then, just crackling flames and distant sirens. Thaddeus coughed, blood flecking his lips. Vance knew we were coming. He's escalating, showing he can kill us whenever he wants. Kira checked his injuries. Multiple lacerations, possible concussion, at least 2 broken ribs. But we're still alive, still fighting. Emergency vehicles arrived. Paramedics loaded Thaddeus onto a stretcher. His injuries were serious but not life-threatening if treated quickly. Kira refused treatment until they'd stabilized him, ignoring the burns on her back and the ringing in her ears. At the hospital, surgeons worked for 6 hours. Commander Gallagher arrived within the first hour, his face grim as stone. Vance, he asked simply. Who else? First Luna, now this. Thaddeus going to make it? They think so, but he's 67. Another hit like this might kill him. Gallagher sat beside her in the waiting room. This is why we need to end it. Tomorrow night. No more waiting. When they finally let Kyra see Thaddeus, he was bandaged and bruised but alive. His eyes opened when she entered. Still here, he managed. Barely. The doctor said another foot closer to the blast center and we'd both be dead. But we're not. And now Vance showed his hand. He's scared, desperate, making mistakes. You almost died. Almost doesn't count. He reached for her hand with effort. Promise me something. Tomorrow night, you finish this, no matter what happens. Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me, Kira. She squeezed his hand. I promise. Agent Torres arrived that evening with a tactical team and a plan. They would wire Kira with audio and video, position NCIS agents in concealment around Building 47, let Vance confess on camera, then move in with overwhelming force. This is your last chance to back out, Torres said. Once you walk into that warehouse, you're committed. And if anything goes wrong, I know the risks. I'm going anyway. Then we do this right, professional, by the book. And we bring Captain Vance down so hard he never sees daylight again. They prepped through the night. Kira memorized evacuation routes, radio codes, tactical positions for the backup teams. She practiced with the body camera until operating it became second nature. At 2100 hours, she stood in the kennel with Apex, preparing mentally for what came next. Tomorrow, boy, Tomorrow we finish what my father started. Apex's tail moved slowly from side to side, not the excited wag of playtime, the measured movement of a warrior understanding that battle approached. Kira stroked his scarred muzzle. Whatever happens, you stay safe. You're too important to risk. But even as she said it, she knew Apex would be with her. That was the nature of their bond. The pack protected the pack. Always. The warehouse loomed against the night sky like a monument to forgotten wars. Building 47 occupied the southeastern corner of Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, a massive steel structure erected during the Cold War when America believed the Soviets might invade California. Now it housed nothing but dust and shadows and the ghosts of conflicts that current generation barely remembered. Kira stood outside the main entrance at 21:45 hours, 15 minutes early. Apex pressed against her left leg, radiating warmth and solidarity. The dog's ears rotated constantly, processing sounds beyond human range, analyzing the environment for threats. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, a black jacket, boots. The jacket concealed the button camera that transmitted everything to Agent Torres and Commander Gallagher 300 yards away in a tactical command vehicle. A throat mic hidden under her collar provided two-way communication. And strapped to her right ankle, a Glock 19 insurance last resort, the difference between survival and death. Alpha 6, Alpha 2 in position. She kept her voice low. Building appears secure. No visible sentries. Commander Gallagher's voice crackled through her earpiece. Copy. Overwatch confirms 4 heat signatures inside main bay. No movement in perimeter areas. Understood. Kira. This was Agent Torres now. Last chance to abort. We can find another way. There is no other way. Not in time. Then remember, get him talking. Get him to confess on camera. Don't engage physically unless absolutely necessary. We need him alive and his testimony admissible in court. Roger. Kira approached the entrance. The door wasn't locked. Vance was confident enough not to bother. It swung open with a shriek of protesting hinges, revealing darkness broken only by scattered emergency lighting. She stepped inside. Apex followed his nails clicking on concrete, the sound echoing in vast emptiness. The main base stretched before them 50 yards deep, 30 wide ceiling, 2 stories overhead. Crates and equipment, lockers lined the walls, creating pools of shadow within deeper darkness. The air smelled of rust and oil and something else. Ozone, the electric charge of tension before storms. 4 figures stood in the center of the space under a single overhead fixture. Captain Richard Vance occupied the middle position, 68 years old, but standing with the rigid posture of someone who'd spent 50 years in uniform. Silver hair cut military short, tactical vest over his uniform, chest full of ribbons, even now, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iraq. Decades of service compressed into colored cloth. To his left, Lieutenant Commander Blake Hutchinson, early 50s, built like someone who'd maintained peak physical condition through sheer determination and discipline. To Vance's right, Chief Warrant Officer Derek Hollis and Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Sheffield completed the quartet, all 4 armed, all 4 watching Kira approach with the cold calculation of apex predators evaluating prey. She stopped 20 feet away. Apex sat without being commanded, alert but not aggressive. Captain Vance, Kira said. Her voice echoed in the cavernous space. Thank you for meeting me. Petty Officer Blackwood, punctual. I appreciate that quality. Vance's tone was conversational, almost pleasant. You came alone as requested. Smart decision. I came for answers. You said you have footage of my father's death. I do, but first let's establish understanding. Vance gestured to his 3 companions. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Your dog, while impressive, can't take down 4 armed operators before we drop you. So let's keep this civilized. Agreed, as long as you keep your end of the bargain. Of course. Vance pulled a tablet from his vest, tapped the screen. Before I show you this, I want you to understand something about your father. Garrett Blackwood was an exceptional SEAL, one of the best handlers I ever commanded. But he made a fatal error. He prioritized abstract principles over practical realities. He prioritized honor over profit. That's not an error. In our line of work, it's a death sentence. Vance turned the tablet toward her. Watch. The screen showed grainy night vision footage, vehicle-mounted camera, Timestamp October 15, 2011. Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. Kira's chest tightened as she recognized her father in the passenger seat. Master Chief Garrett Blackwood, 41 years old, jaw set with determination, eyes scanning terrain through the Humvee's window. In the back seat, a German Shepherd sergeant, his canine partner. The footage continued. The Humvee moving through darkness. Radio chatter, coordinates, the mechanical rhythm of routine patrol. Then a sergeant started barking, urgent, frantic, warning his handler of danger invisible to human senses. Garrett's hand went to his throat mic. Contact right, possible IED. The explosion was deafening, even through the tablet's speakers. The camera angle went wild, spinning, showing ground and sky on fire. When it stabilized, the Humvee was destroyed. Flames consumed twisted metal, bodies visible through the wreckage. But what made Kira's blood freeze was what came next. A figure approached the burning vehicle. Combat fatigues, tactical vest, moving with purpose. He carried a rifle and something else, a smaller device, maybe a detonator. The figure knelt beside the wreckage, reached inside, pulled out Garrett Blackwood. Her father was alive, badly injured legs clearly broken, face covered in blood, uniform, burned but alive, conscious, aware. The figure spoke. Audio was garbled by fire and wind, but fragments came through. Shouldn't have. Garrett. Orders from Vance. Your daughter, same thing. Then the figure pressed something against Garrett's chest. A blade. The same K-bar knife that Boone Maddox had carried in the mineshaft. Garrett Blackwood's body went rigid. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Blood bloomed across his uniform. The light faded from his eyes. The footage ended. Kira stood frozen. Tears streamed down her face without permission. Her hands shook. Her chest felt like someone had reached inside and crushed her heart to pulp. That's Derek Hollis, Vance said quietly, nodding toward the man on his right. He was driving the vehicle behind your father's Humvee. When our planted IED went off, Derek made sure there were no survivors. Clean, professional, necessary. Derek Hollis showed no emotion. Just watched Kira with flat, dead eyes. You murdered him, Kira whispered. Not Taliban. You. We eliminated a threat to operational security, Vance corrected. Your father discovered our operation, threatened to expose us, destroy 15 years of work, cost us millions of dollars. We gave him opportunities to walk away, to accept reality and keep quiet. He refused. So we removed him from the equation. He was your teammate, your brother in arms. He was a liability. And in our business, liabilities get people killed, sometimes the liability themselves. Vance pocketed the tablet. I'm showing you this for a reason. I want you to understand exactly what you're up against. We've been running this operation for 16 years, without detection, without consequences. We have resources, connections, protection at every level, and we've eliminated everyone who threatened us. My father, other SEALs, CIA analysts. 7 people total over 16 years. All of them made the same mistake your father made. They believed principles mattered more than survival. Vance took a step forward. Now you're standing where they stood, walking the same path, about to learn the same lesson. Kira's hand moved fractionally toward her jacket where the Glock waited, but 4 weapons tracked her movement instantly. I wouldn't, Vance said softly. You're fast, well-trained, but not fast enough to draw and fire before my men put a dozen rounds in you. Then why am I still alive? Why this meeting instead of just killing me? Because unlike your father, you strike me as intelligent enough to recognize a losing position when you see one. Vance's expression was almost sympathetic. You've seen what we're capable of. You know the resources we command. You know that continuing this vendetta will only end one way, with you in a body bag like Garrett. You want me to walk away? I'm offering you what I never offered your father, a choice. Transfer to a different base. Go back to training dogs. Forget about investigating his death. Live your life. He paused. It's not weakness to choose survival over principle. It's wisdom. Kira looked at each of them. Vance with his ribbons and his confidence. Hutchinson with his muscled readiness. Hollis with his dead eyes. Sheffield with his nervous energy. 4 men who'd betrayed everything the uniform represented. 4 men who'd murdered her father for money. 4 men who thought they'd won. I have a counteroffer, Kira said clearly. You confess, all of you, right now. Detail every operation, every shipment, every person you've killed. And maybe the judge shows mercy. Vance laughed. The sound echoed through the warehouse, harsh and genuine. You think you have leverage. You think anyone will believe your accusations against decorated combat veterans. I think Senior Chief Boone Maddox is in federal custody providing detailed testimony. I think NCIS has financial records, communication logs, and physical evidence of your smuggling operation. And I think you just confessed to my father's murder on camera. The laughter stopped abruptly. What did you say? Kira tapped her jacket where the button camera transmitted everything. Body cam, audio and video. Agent Rebecca Torres has been recording since I walked in here. Everything you said, everything you admitted, the footage you showed me, Derek Hollis's confession, all documented and admissible in court. Vance's face went through several emotions rapidly. Shock, fury, calculation. His hand moved toward his sidearm. All units execute, execute, execute. Commander Gallagher's voice exploded through Kira's earpiece and through loudspeakers positioned around the warehouse. Doors crashed open on 3 sides simultaneously. NCIS agents in tactical gear poured through weapons, raised voices overlapping in trained chaos. Federal agents, hands up. Drop your weapons. On your knees now. Vance's hand completed its draw. His pistol came up fast, tracking toward Kira, with the speed of someone who'd spent 50 years training for combat. Apex launched forward before Vance could fire. 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois covered 15 feet in explosive strides. The dog hit Vance center mass with enough force to drive the man backward. Jaws clamped onto his gun arm. The pistol discharged a deafening crack, but the round went wide, sparking off concrete. Blake Hutchinson raised his rifle toward the incoming NCIS agents. Got off 3 rounds before return fire caught him in the chest. Body armor stopped the bullets, but kinetic impact broke ribs. He went down hard, gasping for air. Derek Hollis tried to run, made it 5 steps before Commander Gallagher emerged from behind equipment crates M4 carbine at shoulder level. Don't move or I drop you where you stand. Hollis froze, slowly raised his hands. Wyatt Sheffield was smarter or more cowardly. He dropped his weapon immediately, hands shooting skyward, voice loud with surrender. Don't shoot, I'm unarmed, I surrender. Within 30 seconds, it was over. Vance lay on concrete with Apex's jaws clamped on his arm and 4 NCIS agents pointing weapons at his head. Hutchinson was handcuffed, groaning from broken ribs, being treated by a medic. Hollis and Sheffield were both restrained faces pressed against floor. Agent Torres approached Kira, holstering her weapon. You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Kira's voice shook despite her best efforts. Apex release. The dog let go immediately, trotting back to Kira's side. His tail wagged once mission complete, pack protected. Torres looked at Vance with an expression of pure disgust. Captain Richard Vance, you're under arrest for treason, conspiracy to commit murder, smuggling of controlled materials, and approximately 40 other federal charges I'll enumerate on the way to lockup. You have the right to remain silent. This is a mistake, Vance interrupted. His voice remained steady despite pain and restraints. I have connections, lawyers who'll make your evidence inadmissible. You can't possibly. Your connections can't help you anymore. We have Boone Maddox's testimony. We have your confession on video recorded with your knowledge per the petty officer's statement that she was recording. We have financial records, communication logs, and enough evidence to convict you 20 times over. Torres hauled him to his feet with unnecessary roughness. Your operation is done. Your career is done. You're done. She dragged him toward the exit. Other agents hauled Hutchinson, Hollis, and Sheffield to their feet, reading rights processing prisoners with mechanical efficiency. Kira stood in the center of the warehouse, suddenly aware her legs were shaking. The adrenaline that had sustained her through confrontation was draining away, leaving exhaustion and emotion in its wake. Thaddeus appeared at her side. He was supposed to be in the hospital, but of course he wasn't. He'd signed himself out against medical advice, determined to be present for the final confrontation, despite broken ribs and concussion. You did it, kid, he said quietly. You got them all. The footage of my father will be analyzed by forensics. Hollis will be charged with murder. They'll all spend the rest of their lives in federal prison. It's not enough. They took 12 years from me. 12 years of questions and grief and... Her voice broke. Thaddeus pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of his injuries. I know it's not enough. Nothing ever could be. But it's justice. And that's what Garrett would have wanted. Kira let herself lean into the embrace for just a moment. Let herself be the 26-year-old daughter who'd lost her father, instead of the warrior who'd hunted his killers across 12 years and 10,000 miles. Then she pulled back, wiping her eyes. There's still the shipment. Maddox said weapons-grade plutonium leaving within 72 hours. Torres's team intercepted it this morning. 10 kilograms of weapons-grade plutonium packed for transport to Syria through a front company. The entire network is compromised, every cell, every contact, every safe house. Thaddeus smiled grimly. It's over. Commander Gallagher approached his face, showing exhaustion that came from operating on adrenaline and moral certainty for 48 straight hours. Chief Petty Officer Blackwood, hell of a job. Kira blinked. Sir, I'm not... You are now. Emergency battlefield promotion approved by NAV Spec Warcom within the last hour. Effective immediately. Gallagher extended a set of chief's anchors, the insignia she dreamed of earning since joining the Navy. Your father held this rank, now you do too. Kira took the anchors with trembling hands. Couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. Additionally, you're hereby assigned as head K-9 instructor, Naval Special Warfare Center. You'll train every handler who comes through this program. Teach them your methods, your father's methods, the right way. He stepped back and saluted. Every SEAL and NCIS agent in the warehouse followed suit, 20-some men and women showing respect, acknowledging accomplishment, accepting her as one of them. Kira returned the salute with tears streaming down her face, held it long enough for the moment to burn into memory. When they dropped salutes, she found her voice. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. You already proved that. Now go get some rest. You've earned it. They left the warehouse as dawn began painting the sky. Emergency vehicles filled the parking area. This story was too big to contain. By tomorrow, the entire country would know that 5 Navy SEALs had been arrested for treason. At the base hospital, Kira insisted on checking on Thaddeus's condition despite his protests. The doctors were furious he'd left against orders, but grudgingly admitted his injuries hadn't worsened significantly. You're incredibly lucky, the doctor said. Another hit like the car bomb and you probably won't survive. Then I'll have to avoid car bombs, Thaddeus replied. In the waiting room afterward, Kira sat beside him. Apex settled at her feet, finally relaxing now that danger had passed. What happens now? Thaddeus asked. Torres said there'll be investigations, boards of inquiry, congressional hearings. Could take years to fully unravel everything. And after, I teach. Train the next generation. Make sure they never face what my father faced. That's good. That's what he would have wanted. Thaddeus looked at her. I'm proud of you, kid. Garrett would be too. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad I got to help. He paused. I think I'm really retiring now. For real this time. Going to buy that cabin in Oregon. Get that dog I mentioned. Try to figure out who I am when I'm not Master Chief Brennan. You'll always be Master Chief Brennan. That's in your bones. Maybe, but I'd like to be Thaddeus for a while. Just a regular old man with a yeesh and too many memories. They sat in comfortable silence, watching hospital staff move through corridors, listening to the mechanical sounds of an institution designed to heal bodies broken in service. Thank you, Kira said finally, for keeping your promise to my father, for protecting me, for being family when I needed it most. Always, kid. That's what family does. 3 months later, the memorial service was everything the first funeral hadn't been. Not a quiet affair with a handful of mourners. This was official. Full military honors, Commander Gallagher presiding, Agent Torres in attendance, 40 Navy SEALs in dress blues standing at attention. Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery overlooked the Pacific Ocean, rows of white headstones marching in perfect formation across manicured grass. The sky was clear, the kind of perfect California day that felt like a gift. A new headstone marked Garrett Blackwood's grave, larger than before, more detailed. Master Chief Garrett Blackwood, SEAL Team 3, K-9 Handler, 1970, 2011. Murdered in service to his country, justice served 2024. Trust the dogs, they know the truth. Beside it, a bronze plaque. This memorial honors all service members killed by corruption within their ranks. May their sacrifice never be forgotten. May their killers face eternal judgment. Kira stood at attention in her dress blues, new Chiefs anchors gleaming on her collar. Apex sat beside her, wearing a ceremonial vest, marking him as a working military dog. Commander Gallagher spoke about duty and honor and the cost of maintaining principles when the world valued expediency. He spoke about Garrett Blackwood's legacy not just as a handler, but as a warrior who'd chosen to do right, even knowing it would cost him everything. The rifle volleys cracked across the cemetery, 21 shots echoing over water, 21 reminders that freedom required blood. A bugler played taps. The mournful notes drifted out over the Pacific, carried on ocean winds toward horizons unknown. The flag that had covered the memorial was folded with precise ceremony and presented to Kira. She accepted it, held it against her chest, felt the weight of tradition and honor and grief compressed into colored cloth. The service concluded. People began dispersing. But Kira remained standing before her father's memorial, Apex solid and warm beside her. Thaddeus approached. He'd made the trip from Oregon despite his retirement, traveling 2 days to be here for this moment. His limp was less pronounced, physical therapy, and time had helped heal the worst damage. He'd be proud, Thaddeus said simply. I hope so. I know so. You did what he couldn't. Finished the mission. And now you're making sure the next generation doesn't face the same betrayals. He paused. That's the best way to honor him. Are you happy in Oregon? Getting there, the cabin's quiet. The dog I named him, Garrett, by the way, is good company. Turns out retirement isn't so bad when you've got purpose. What purpose? Remembering, honoring, making sure people like your father aren't forgotten. Thaddeus smiled. And maybe writing a book. Someone should tell these stories. You should. You were there for all of it. Maybe I will. He extended his hand. Take care of yourself, Chief Blackwood, and take care of Apex. Always. They shook hands. Then Thaddeus walked away slowly back toward his truck, back toward his cabin and his dog and his hard-earned peace. Kira turned back to the memorial, placed one hand on cold stone. I did it, Dad. Got them all. Vance, Maddox, Hutchinson, Hollis, Sheffield. All of them in federal prison for life. The operation is shut down. The materials are secured. You can rest now. Apex leaned against her leg, a reminder of presence, partnership, the patience that transcended death. I've got your job now, training handlers your way, teaching them that dogs are partners, not tools, that honor matters, that integrity matters, that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard. She stood and saluted one final time, held it while tears came freely. Rest easy, Master Chief. Your daughter's got it from here. 6 months after the arrest trials began. Military tribunals, not civilian courts. These were active duty personnel charged with crimes committed while in uniform. Kira testified for 3 days, detailed everything from her father's journals to the mineshaft confrontation to Vance's confession in the warehouse. Defense attorneys tried every angle to discredit her testimony. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, devastating. Captain Richard Vance guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Dishonorable discharge. Senior Chief Boone Maddox, guilty on all counts, 45 years. Dishonorable discharge. Lieutenant Commander Blake Hutchinson, guilty, 35 years. Dishonorable discharge. Chief Warrant Officer Derek Hollis, guilty of murder, treason, smuggling, 40 years. Dishonorable discharge. Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Sheffield, guilty, 25 years. Dishonorable discharge. When they led Vance away in shackles, he looked at Kira one final time. This isn't over. Yes, she said quietly, it is. A year after that, Chief Petty Officer Kira Blackwood stood before her first class of K-9 handler trainees. 20 students, 10 men, 10 women, the most diverse group the program had ever accepted. They looked nervous, uncertain, worried they weren't good enough for this work. Kira understood perfectly. She'd felt the same way standing outside these kennels 18 months ago. My name is Chief Blackwood, she began. My father, Master Chief Garrett Blackwood, was the best K-9 handler naval special warfare ever produced. He taught me everything I know about working with dogs, and now I'm going to teach you. She walked down the line, making eye contact with each trainee. Dogs are not tools. They're not weapons. They're partners, teammates, warriors who will save your life if you respect them and earn their trust. Apex trotted to her side, sitting at perfect heel. This is Apex. He's saved my life more times than I can count. He's completed missions that most humans couldn't. And he's done it all because we're pack. We trust each other, absolutely. She paused, letting them see the bond between handler and dog. My father taught me trust the dogs. They know the truth. They know who the wolves are. Listen to them. Learn from them. Become pack with them. And they'll never let you down. The students listened with the intensity of people understanding they were receiving something valuable, something hard-won and precious. Over the following months, Kira rebuilt the K9 program from the ground up. New training methods based on partnership rather than domination. Higher standards that emphasized trust over obedience. Ethical guidelines that treated dogs as the sentient beings they were. Trent Aldridge became her assistant instructor, fully reformed, genuinely dedicated to doing better. He testified against the conspirators and received immunity in exchange for cooperation. Now he was proving he deserved that second chance. "You're changing the whole culture," he said one evening after a particularly grueling training session. "The old guys don't know what to make of it. The old culture got my father killed. Time for a new one. You think it'll stick after you're gone? It'll stick because I'm training people who will train the next generation. Legacy isn't about what you do. It's about what you teach others to do." 2 years after the arrests on the anniversary of her father's death, Kira returned to Fort Rosecrans Cemetery. Apex walked beside her now, 9 years old gray, creeping into his muzzle, but still strong, still alert, still utterly devoted. Fresh flowers already sat at the base of her father's memorial. She wasn't the only one who remembered Master Chief Garrett Blackwood. She knelt, placing her own addition, a new photograph, not the old one of her father with young Kira. This one showed Kira in her chief's uniform, standing beside 20 K9 handler graduates, all of them with their dogs, all of them ready to serve with honor. "Your legacy continues, Dad, through them, through me, through every handler who learns that dogs are partners, not tools." Apex settled beside her head, resting on her knee. "I miss you every single day, but I'm okay. We're okay. The pack is strong." The Pacific wind carried her words away, toward whatever eternity held, toward whatever place her father had gone. She sat there for a long time, remembering, grieving, honoring. Then she stood, saluted one final time, and walked back toward the future. Behind her, the memorial stood silent and permanent, a reminder, a warning, a promise kept. The pack protects the pack, always.